Hey, I'm back. Coffee Chat version 2. Let's see if this one works properly. I'll try and bring up the comments on my computer so I can see if you make any comments. So I'm going to start again. So we're doing the Whole Foods Challenge, and I can tell it's a bit of a struggle for people. It was meant to be a hard challenge. But the main challenge I wanted to see was like, can people compromise and do things like that? So I don't expect anyone to ever do Whole Foods for the rest of their life, but this challenge was more about sort of figuring out what, like, for one, let's talk about snacks. When people go to snacks, they generally go to like biscuits and things like that. So things that generally aren't the best thing for us and don't move us closer to our goal. So part of this Whole Food Challenge was about making you rethink or putting a barrier in front of you just going and mindlessly snacking. You have to try and think of a whole food snack. And then sometimes you just go, I just can't be arsed eating another piece of fruit. So you just don't do it. Because snacking typically is habitual. And if you feel like you need to snack, there's outliers. Like there's a few people in this group who are outliers who need to have regular meals. But generally, snacking is a habitual thing or a boredom thing. So the Whole Foods Challenge was part introduced this round to sort of, because a lot of people were talking about snacking and stuff last week, so I thought let's do a Whole Foods Challenge in a way to help tackle the snacking thing. So making you either stop and think before you snack. So are you actually hungry? Are you thirsty? Or are you actually wanting to go for it? And yeah, snacking is definitely an emotional thing. I actually do like a /emotional / boredom. Like if I get stuck on the computer doing a lot of stuff, I will, to take my brain out of it because I need to get like move and switch off, I'll go and eat something. So the big thing for me, even when the kids are home, if I'm focusing on the kids, sounds really bad, but if I'm focusing on the kids for a long period of time and trying to keep them active, I get bored, I get emotional, maybe stressed out a little bit, and I'll go look to the kitchen to get a little reprieve. And that's like when I keep posting the pictures of me on the toilet, same thing. I'm just trying to get away to find some my time. So snacking is very much about that. Usually it's about my time, or it's an emotional thing, or it's a habitual thing that's just come in. So the Whole Foods Challenge was trying to put a barrier in front of you, just mindlessly going and snacking and asking the question, do I need a snack? And then a couple of people found out, hey, Lucy, a couple of people are finding that it's hard to stay on top of everything. Weird. I'm seeing myself on both screens. It's wigging me out. So staying on top of the Whole Foods Challenge for every single meal. This is where the compromise thing was coming in. This is another part of the challenge which was underlying. I wanted to see how people dealt with it, was compromises. So are you willing to compromise with yourself that it's going to be okay if you can't get 3 out of 3 or 4 out of 4 meals 100% whole foods? You still get points if it's 1. Hey, Fush. You still get points if it's 2 meals a day. You get points if it's 3 meals. You get points if it's 4 meals. You still gain points if you do 1 meal a day. The act of showing up is the real challenge, and not backing down or backing away when things get hard. So this Whole Food Challenge was basically a way to see if you can challenge yourself to keep showing up and compromise in places where you need to compromise. So if like family dinners and the kids just don't eat whole foods, that's okay. Make that meal your meal that's off the plan, and you still get 2 meals a day, which are on plan whole foods. That's like 90% of your day. If it's 3 meals, 75% of your day wears whole foods, and you're getting a lot of benefit from that. Even 1 meal a day where it's 100% whole foods is going to be better than no meals a day. So it's about compromising and turning the volume up on the Whole Foods Challenge when you can, and turning it back down and being reasonable when you can't. This is what we do in the online coaching that we do. We make the intensity hard for the training and the intensity hard for the diet when there's room to do it, and if you can't, then we turn it back and show you how to get results wherever you are. So that's kind of how the Whole Foods Challenge works. Throw me questions, guys, in the comments so I can answer them, so I don't just ramble on about nothing. Everyone, keep doing the WODs. Keep showing up for the WODs. They're not the most important thing this week, but they're still important. I'm worried if I go off the plan, I can't go back. It's true. It's kind of the good question about ketosis, Lucy. We'll talk about that in a sec. Just next question, Lucy. Are you worried about getting into ketosis? What are you worried about go into ketosis about that, and we'll talk about that in a sec. Yeah, with the going off track thing, the grey areas thing. So if you give yourself grey areas, the grey areas will get bigger and bigger and bigger. I tend to do that a bit. So you guys might have noticed that I'm doing a 75 hard challenge where 75 days in a row, I've got to do 2 45-minute workouts minimum a day. One has to be outside. I've got to follow a diet plan, and my diet plan is basically whole foods, but after this week, it's adding in dairy and plain rice. But basically everything else is whole foods. It's like a list of 10 things I'm allowed to have at every meal. And I basically follow that list and eat as much as I like based on hunger levels. And then read 10 pages of a book that's going to improve me in some way. And then a daily progress photo, and no alcohol, which I don't do anyway. And don't cheat on your diet. So I've got to do that for 75 days in a row. Because I was struggling with grey areas myself. So Tal, I am the same as you. There's two people that can have grey areas and be okay with it, and people that can't. I'm a no grey area. I don't do well with grey areas. That's why I don't drink alcohol. I couldn't drink just one drink a day. I drank too much. So grey areas for me does not work, but it does work for some. So I think for you, Tal, I think just stay whole foods and try and do it the whole week is a really good way of doing it. And then after the week's gone, you can sort of go, which meals were easy, which meals were hard, and do the easy meals whole foods and bring in other stuff for the hard ones. Right, Lucy. So once I finally get into ketosis, and it takes forever for me, that one slip up bumps me out, then give up in my head. So the big question is, why do you want to get into ketosis or go into keto? What's the big reason for getting in there? Because for no the reason why, I can give you a better answer. But you don't need it for fat loss if that's what you're worried about. Fat loss is, as annoying as it sounds, fat loss is calories in versus calories out. And you can go low carb and don't have to worry about going to ketosis and still get benefits of going low carb. Okay, so weight loss. So yeah, you don't even, like, if it's okay with you, you don't have to worry about going to ketosis if that's what you're getting hung up on. Just forget about it. Focus on keeping your carb content low. If you go into ketosis, happy days, that's great. If you don't, it doesn't matter. The weight loss effect will happen anyway. The changeover in your system when you go from purely carb burning to fat burning, which is that ketosis switch over, and you start feeling more like fresh air and freer in your head because you're eating ketosis. You might lose that a little bit, but not much. So there's a guy I follow, John Kiefer. He's gone quiet lately, but he's just coming back again now. I did carb backloading and carb night with him, but carb night was basically being in ketosis all week and then having a 6-hour window where you smack carbs as hard as you can to re-spike your metabolism and go into ketosis again. And he always talked about a 14-day set where you got to get into that low carb zone. He never talked about ketosis because it's really hard to get into unless you test it. But he always talked about 14 days, and it usually takes 3 or 4 days to get back into that zone. But there is no proven benefit for being in ketosis over any other diet program as long as you're consistent with the program. So if it's hard for you to stay consistent doing the keto diet, then it's not a successful diet for you and you should try something else. But if you are really successful doing the keto diet, then it's a perfect diet for you and keep doing it. That's the big thing. Are you getting results? 1, that's the most important thing. And 2, are you able to do this long term? If you can't do it long term, then we need to find a better approach. But keto is fine long term. There's no real negatives with it. You just got to be mindful of that you're eating enough salt and things like that. I can point you in a direction of books to read to make sure you get doing all that. It's a bit out of my league. Yeah, just the fact that going keto makes you eat whole foods for one, generally, and you cut out a lot of carbs, which is really easy to add a lot of calories into your day. So it's just a big chunk of food taken out of your life, which means you'll just generally fall into a calorie deficit, which is basically what it's done. People basically they were eating protein, fats, carbs, and veggies, I hope. And then when they go ketosis, they go proteins, fats, veggies. It's basically it. You go proteins, fats, veggies, and it takes a whole whack of carbs out, which could be 400, 500, 600, 700 calories a day. Easy. So when you take that out, that's a massive deficit and you're going to lean out. That's why everyone leans out on it. And then you get the motivation and the momentum effect, like, this diet's amazing, I'm getting mad results and I feel awesome and blah, 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 blah. The big thing is just making sure Like, yeah, you're still getting results. You can do it long term, and then start doing a HEC check. Your hunger, energy, cravings, is that all in check? Usually it is with keto, but energy is tied with mood, and if your mood and energy starts dropping, there could be a hormonal thing going on, which can happen with keto, which you might need to play around with, which Fush and I can talk to you about that as you go through the coaching journey anyway. But if you like doing keto, keep doing it. It's nothing inherently wrong with it. You might never actually fall into ketosis unless you test it with your blood markers. Don't do P-sticks because that's a lagging indicator. You need to test blood markers to see if you're in ketosis straight away. And for me, when I did it, that was a pain in the ass, so I stopped doing it because the benefit of going low carb didn't mean I had to go in keto anyway. You still get the same benefits anyway. Just be mindful that you can't train very hard while doing it because you need glucose to train hard and you need glucose to recover from training hard. So keto is really good if you can't get a lot of training in. Any other questions? That was a really good question too, Lucy. Thank you. No, emotional snacker. It's kind of going back to Sandy's one, the emotional snacking. It's pretty hard. It's kind of like, I think it's okay sometimes too. So just keep that in mind. Like, we shouldn't snack between meals, but if you're in a really stressful situation and maybe having a snack on something that's not super ideal, but it gives you the feels, makes you feel good. Like, my thing is, weirdly enough, even though coffee is a stressor because it makes you peak high, it calms me down to a degree. When I have a coffee, I'm like, all right, let's go and start focusing again. I can't get into work mode unless I have a hot drink in my hand. I have a sip and then I can work. So things like that. It could be like a circuit breaker for whatever thing's going on in your life, and having a snack and snap you out of it and you're like, okay, I'm all right, and then you move on. As long as it doesn't blow up into something bigger. So if it's a small snack and it fits your plan, that's okay. If it's a snack that just blows the whole thing out of proportion, then it's not so okay. That's not so okay. Whatever that means, that's not as okay. I only just started my coffee, still got heaps of time. Any other questions? These are good ones. My hair's a bit crazy. I need to go get a haircut. I actually get a haircut on Friday with Theo because they've relaxed the rules in New South Wales, so we're crossing the border to go get a haircut. Emotional snacking, yep, that's me. Also, just not having good foods available at the right time. Yeah. Like, this diet program I'm doing, the first 5 weeks or whatever we're up to now, I think it's 4 weeks we've been in ISO, but we were in ISO 3 weeks before that because of a scare we had. So we're up to 7, whatever it is. I just ate whatever. I did not care. I snacked when the kids snacked because they were at home. I was eating saladas. I was doing whatever. Having good snacks on hand is the big thing. And for me, this 75 hard thing was about putting a hard and fast rule on the things I can have and nothing on my list of 10. If it's not on my list of 10, I can't have it. So that's where fruit has been my snack to go to. Like, yesterday was a pretty hard day training and I smacked fruit like there was no tomorrow. I think I had 2 bananas, 3 apples, 3 mandarins just to try and fill the hunger that I had, because I'm not allowed to have rice yet and I was waiting for carbs, a big hit of carbs and potato at dinner to fuel the training. But yeah, it hit me hard yesterday, so I'm trying to manage it a bit better today. Not sure if this is relevant, but this week I've had other people share their negative opinions on what I'm doing. Sandy, you're such a good person, Sandy, but I reckon you should tell them, get effed. Because I get really angry when people drag other people down into their own shit. If they're stuck in the mud, the best thing for them is, for us to help them, is to show them what it's like outside of the mud and moving forward. So if someone's stuck in the mud and they help me, and they're dragging you down in there, it doesn't help you to go down into there with them to get them back out, which they're trying to drag you down. Keep doing what you're doing, Sandy, because they're obviously impressed with what you're doing. And I think internally they've got an internal battle going on where they're trying to bring you down to their level instead of them rising up to your level. I think that's the big thing that's going on in their mind. Either way, that's what I tell myself when people start doing shit like that to me. I start doing, I tell myself that they're stuck in the mud. I'm above, well, not above where they are. I'm moving out of the mud and away from them. They're trying to bring me back to where they are instead of them trying to come up with me. And in that case, the best thing you can do is leave them behind in a nice way and make them come follow you and lead by example, if that makes sense. Sounds kind of extremist, but when people pull you down, it just can derail you so hard. And I think it's a much better scenario when you're like, screw you. Whatever you think, I don't care. I'm going to keep doing this thing. And if you're going to be my real friend, you're going to support me and help come forward with me. If you're not, I'm just not going to contact with you anymore. When I gave up alcohol, this is a big thing my psychologist taught me with my friends that I had when I was drinking, and then my new friends that I had outside of drinking. And there was a transition through there. Now the friends since then are my best friends, and we do absolutely everything for each other. And the ones I had when I was drinking, I don't talk to anymore, and they're still in the mud. They're still going through the same shit that they did when they were 25. So they are always going to be there. Sometimes on your journey, you're going to make new friends and different people. Tally, I'm a bit hungry. More carbs, more potatoes, more fat. Tal, I'll go more fat first or more protein. Protein and fat are more satiating than carbs. Carbs and fat combined can actually make you hungrier. So like cooking potatoes with oil on it can actually make you hungrier for more potatoes and oil. So I would go fat, protein and fat combined. See if you can do that to bring you up. Protein shake with some avocado or something in it would be good. Lucy, like yesterday on the road visiting customers. Yeah. They've released the restrictions in New South Wales a fair bit, which is pretty cool. Oh, you're still doing food prep. Yeah, screw them, Sandy. Ugh, wankers. Everyone food preps. I don't understand what the big deal is. Like, you're gonna just all of a sudden go and your dinner's made. You're still prepping even if you're doing it right before your meal. It's just a wanky thing to say. Like, people just don't understand. Okay, fat's probably been a bit low. Yeah, try adding fats first, Tal, and see if that makes you feel better. Everyone has an opinion on it, don't they? It's so frustrating. Yes, everyone has an opinion on everything you ever do and will tell you how to do everything you ever want to do. Because everyone's had something that's worked for them. And that's great, but it doesn't work long term. Like, I fell into the trap when I first started. I did like the keto, low carb thing, carb backloading and really hard training. And that's how I trained everybody early on. I trained everyone the same. It took me a long time to realize that what worked for me does not work for everyone else. And what worked for me did not work long term. So I burnt out in the end. So it's one of those things where people find something that works for them and then they try and push that onto everybody else. Lack of a better idea, the idea is the same as religion. My religion's best, everyone else's sucks. I'm going to push my religion on you. Not everyone's like that, but that's kind of how it works. I'm Baptist and Catholic, or used to be, so we had both scenarios when we were growing up, and I still get them now. So with family who are still very deep in it. So it's the same scenario. What I do is awesome, what you do is shit. I'm going to push my thing on you because I think it's better. When it might not work for you. And it's like people who do super extreme diets, like F45 extreme programs, it works for them for now. It does not work for everybody. It works for a certain type. Lucy, I desperately need the food prep. Yeah, it helps a ton. Sandy's the food prep king. There's a few others in the group which are really good at it. We only prep for dinner. So our dinner always feeds our next day lunch. So we do that every day. So we only prep for one meal a day, and our breakfast is generally always the same. And I roll between 3 different brekkies. Like last week was yogurt, protein powder, and a paleo trail mix. This week, because we're doing dairy-free and everything, I'm just having a dairy-free protein powder smoothie, which is just with water and coconut oil, coconut cream, and a banana and stuff like that. So the way Kat and I do it, we found this is the easiest way, is we prep dinner, we plan dinners to feed our lunches. So it's planned around the kids and making sure they've got snacks and everything as well. But our dinner feeds our lunches the next day. And that's how we do it every single day. So we don't have to think about doing our lunch stuff. And then we cook extra meat and stuff for snacks. So we try and have a piece of meat and a piece of fruit for snacks now. Any other questions, guys? Keep firing at me. I don't know what time we're up to. Almost at 30 minutes. I got a call at 10, so I have to be off the live at 10, but I'm still good to go. Yes, so awesome question. Thyroid stuff does make a huge difference in weight loss. So all the generic calorie calculators and how they figure out how many calories you should eat for weight loss and blah 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 blah, is almost thrown out the window because of anyone who's got thyroid issues, postmenopausal, PCOS, all that kind of stuff. All that's pretty much out the window because your metabolism just runs different. The same rule applies. See you, Sandy. Hope you have an awesome day today. The same rule applies that you need to basically just keep dropping your food until you start getting a result. So even when they tested it, like the metabolism is much lower for postmenopausal and thyroid issues. And if you're on thyroid hormones, there's different ways that will suit you. But if you are on hormones, Lucy, send it to me, and Fush and I will talk about it and show you how to what eating program will work for you based on what hormone supplements you're on. But you just keep bringing your food down to get the results you need, but you still got to have fat in there because fat feeds the thyroid and makes it more activated or whatever. But because if you've got a funky thyroid already, it's going to be a balancing act. So if it gets removed, then it's going to be super interesting. But it's just not anything yet. That's good. You will be eventually. But there'll be there's like a postmenopausal with thyroid treatment, postmenopausal without thyroid treatment, and there's two versions, and they're like different generations of medication, and it turns your body into a certain type of burner. So it will either be a carb burner or a fat burner. And when you change to suit it, it works really well. There's a book called The Women's Book by Lyle McDonald. It is something like 800 pages or something ridiculous. But he goes through everything through the women's health and how training and nutrition and birth control and thyroid hormones and all that kind of stuff, and what you need to do for training and what you need to do for nutrition and other supplements to bring it up. Yes, and as always, it's like dudes stay the same as we get older. Like our metabolism slows down a bit and we just get lazy. That's about it. The only reason our metabolism slows down is because we get lazy. It's got nothing to do with anything else. You move less when you're older. For dudes, that's pretty much all we've got to do with prostate cancer and all that shit outside. That's it. But women, you just short end of the stick, like the pregnancies and then birth control shit, which can just ruin your system so bad. There's not much you can do about it, but it just does horrendous stuff to your normal cycle of the body, so it's harder for you to lose weight. And then thyroid stuff, postmenopausal, all that shit, it just makes it harder. That's why I actually like coaching women more, because you got all this shit going on and you still show up and do the work, while guys literally have to worry about nothing and they struggle to show up and do the things that they're meant to do. So it's pretty funny. Yes, need to read more to find out about it more. I'm not sure cutting it out is the best option, so relying on what medics say. Out of my wheelhouse. I wouldn't know, and I wouldn't argue with the medic, pretty much, because they've been in the field for so long. So I'd go, that's the only thing is best case scenario. The only way you can do it is get a second opinion and ask other people who have had it taken out and what the other options are. So find out what the other options are. There should be a few, I'm guessing, maybe not. But see if there's any other options you can go with, and then find people who are using that option and see what they feel it's like. That's what I would do. Like overshare time. Totally different scenario. It's going to really have nothing to do with anything like this, but I was on the list to get a vasectomy and I wasn't sure if I was going to do it because we don't want to have any more kids. So I've talked to guys who had good, surgeries with it, and ones that had bad ones, and ones who got pregnant after having vasectomies and stuff, and people who reversed it and all the scenarios, just to find out as much as I could so I can make my best guess. So, which is basically all it is anyway. So second opinion would probably be a good idea, and then you can use whichever way you reckon you can go. there'll be someone out there who will tell you that there's a hormonal, like food, bloody eating grass way of going about fixing it. But I always weigh it up with the medic's advice and go from there. Maybe that's why I find it so hard to lose around my guts, because of the birth control I'm on. Because since Wiley, I have found it so hard to lose on my belly and 2 C-sections. C-sections make it hard too. It generally just makes it very loose around the stomach area. You get loose around the stomach area after kids anyway. You can bring it back in, just takes a bit of time. But C-sections, obviously, it's very loose because you've had massive surgery there. It's a massive operation in that area. So, yeah, it's very hard. But birth control definitely makes it hard to pinpoint where to get fat loss from. And generally, for most women, it's the last places it comes from is lower waist, I guess. The lower part of the waist to the hips is the last point you'll lose it from. So when you're losing fat, as weird as it sounds, you lose it from your fingers first, so the furthest point away from your heart. So you lose it from here, like from your neck, you lose it from your chest, from your arms, from your legs. The last point is the hips and waist. That's the downside. So you, literally, the only thing you can do is just keep leaning out and monitoring bloods and hormones on the way to it. Like when you want to get to like very, very, very lean levels, you want to get very lean as you get older. You have to monitor your hormones and your bloods to make sure you stay healthy, because it's not worth going so far and then having all these things switch off. The female body's kind of like almost like a perfect machine in a sense, where it has all these functions that's going on more so than what will happen in a male body. In the male body, if we reduce our calories heaps, all our functions happen still. They function at a lower level. In the female body, things start switching off. It's like a hierarchy. It's in the book. I can't remember what it is exactly, but there's a lady who did another book that talks about energy balance sort of thing. If the energy balance is too low and you're too much in the negative, things start switching off. So your reproductive hormones start switching off. You hear of women losing their cycle when they're on a really extreme diet and going on stage. It's because there's no food to fuel the reproductive cycle. So there's no energy to make it happen. The body's in an extreme stress state. So the body will shut down you having a kid because you're not healthy anymore. It's too lean. So when things like that start happening, then you know there's something going wrong. Any other questions? This has been a really good one. I still got heaps of my coffee left. And then like any advice I give out with like thyroid stuff and all that kind of stuff will be given out in consultation with a doctor or functional medicine practitioner or whoever it is you're talking to. Whatever advice I'd give food-wise, I'd send it off, and all the coaches we have would send it off to the doctor. Half the time they don't respond and they don't care because they think we're kind of idiots, but we still send it off and ask them anyway, and generally stay within our guidelines of what we can coach you with anyway. We can't give like certain medical advice. No worries, Foosh. It's definitely will be a calories in, calories out thing. It's even still with birth control. Depending on the birth control you're on, there could be second, third, fourth generation, depending on which one it is. And then there's a certain, it's either going to be a prominently fat burner or carb burner based on the birth control. And it goes in the cycles too. So it's half progesterone and half estrogen. So there's like 2 phases of it. One phase would be carb burner, one phase would be a fat burner. It gets pretty wild. I've got all the videos on how to figure it out based on what birth control you have. So I'll send them to you first so you can have a look at it. It does get pretty nuts. And it's when you do work within your cycle, like to your cycle, so you match whatever you're doing. So there's a part of the cycle of the female body where you should train less, walk more, and eat low carb. And there's a part of the cycle where you should train a ton and eat more carbs, because it works both ways and you'll burn fat on both scenarios, but the body will respond better on that high training phase, high carb phase, high food phase, because the body's hormones are set up for it, and then the other way, not so much. The other way, you just need to walk a lot, reduce stress, and train maybe once, twice, 3 times a week for 15 minutes at a time. That's it. There's a book called Rise, which is a women's health training book, and she talks about it a lot in there. Just started it probably 2 months ago. I've got to finish it. I had to let it go after everything else that's been going on. I had to start reading other stuff. All right, guys. If you haven't got any other questions, I'll wait about 5 minutes. If you've got another question, throw it in there and I'll rant off that as well. But if not, we will call it a day. It was a good coffee chat again. How are you guys? So throw feedback into the group as well after the WODs, what you like different. Hey Lucy, no worries at all. Food, yeah, my food can be pretty shitty too. I find it so hard when Dylan is so unhealthy and brings shit home, and self-control sucks. I'll have a look for it. Yes, please, that would be awesome. Yeah, if your partners pretty much can get away with eating whatever the hell they want and they eat shit, it's really hard. The best way to do that would be to do a calories in, calories out model. If it fits your macros, as shit as that sounds, you'll have meals which are in your control. So you put all the veggies and all the good stuff as much as you can into those meals that you make for yourself. They're the ones that are your focus of control. They're the ones in your control. So you focus really hard there. And then stuff where stuff gets brought home for dinner, it's not in the plan, it's not super awesome. Track it calorie wise against what you've already eaten in the day and make it work and make it fit. So when Kat was pregnant, Pro Juggernaut, I always say Pro Juggernaut. There's a funny video I'll share with you later if you haven't seen it. Kat ate basically whatever she wanted, which is completely fair enough. Being pregnant is shit. So what I did was I had 2 meals a day, which I had control over. I generally, during pregnancy, don't train as much because I want to be there to help Kat so she doesn't have to worry about the other kid. So I was eating about 2,000 calories a day. I made the 2 meals about 800 calories each or 700 calories each, I think it was. So they gave me 1,400 for the day. And I had 600 calories or more, so 600 to 1,000 calories I could have in the meal that Kat ate whatever she wanted. And I just made it fit. If I was under, I was under. If I was over, I was over. It worked out in the wash. It worked out in the end of the week. If at the end of the week I wasn't getting results, I reduced the calories of the 2 meals in my focus. So the one, my breakfast and lunch, which is in my focus, I dropped them down and not worried about the one, which is the blowout meal. It's not the best case scenario, but it keeps the family happy. It keeps things ticking over and allows you to get results still while not having to sit there eating a salad while the person next to you is eating a chocolate bar. You can have it. You can fit it to your macros as long as you're getting lots of good food in the other meals. You can't do if it fits your macros for all the meals. It will blow up in your face eventually. You'll get results, but you will just feel like death. So you need to get lots of veggies and stuff in the other meals. So the other meals have to be really, really good for you to relax in that last meal. All right, I think I'm going to call it on that so I can get set up for this next call. And I'll probably have a shower because I stink from the workouts this morning. Awesome questions, guys. I'll post this in the group and I'll throw if you got any other questions, throw them in the comments and I will answer them. All right, guys. See ya.